What would you do if your neighbor called 911 claiming you stole your own car? Why would neighbors weaponize their own rules? That's exactly what happened to me after a few weeks of HOA harassment. I'm standing in my own driveway, holding the keys to my father's 1967 Mustang, while a police officer asks me to prove it's mine. The HOA president is watching from her window, smiling. This isn't about car restoration or neighborhood rules. This is about control. And what I discovered next will make you question everything you think you know about the house next door. It all started with something so simple, so ordinary, that I almost threw it away. The envelope was thin, white, sitting under my door like a death notice when I opened it at 6 a.m. to grab the newspaper. My coffee was still brewing when I tore it open and saw those words that would change everything. Violation notice. Unauthorized automotive activity. I read it 3 times before it hit me. They were fining me for working on my car. In my own driveway. The same driveway I pay taxes on. The same property I just bought 6 months ago thinking I'd found peace in suburbia. The fine is $150. That number jumps off the page like a slap. But that's not the part that makes my hands shake. It's the small print underneath. Escalating penalties for repeat violations. Then lower. Community Standards Enforcement Protocol activated. What the hell does that even mean? Beverly Lang's signature sits at the bottom. Perfect cursive letters like she practiced this in charm school. The woman who brought me cookies when I moved in. The same woman who smiled and waved every morning when I left for work. I grab my HOA handbook from the kitchen drawer. Flip through pages of rules about grass height and fence colors. Nothing about automotive work being banned. Nothing about 150 fines for using your own property. The violation notice has a code. CS 447B. I check the handbook again. Every violation type is listed with codes. Grass too high, CS 101. Wrong paint color, CS 203.
Un autoritza vehicles, CS 401.
CS 447B doesn't exist in my handbook. HOA rules must appear in your recorded CCRS. If a code isn't there, challenge it. If this happens to you, save the notice, photograph it, check your CC or filing at county records, and document calls and emails. Doing this preserves evidence and buys time. I call the HOA office. Ring, ring, ring. Then a voicemail message that makes ice form in my stomach. Thank you for calling Meadowbrook HOA. All violations are currently under review by our compliance committee. Please leave a message and someone will return your call within 5 business days. 5 business days. For a $150 fine that arrived this morning. I walk outside to check my car. The 1967 Mustang sits exactly where I left it. Hood closed. Tools put away. Oil stains cleaned up. I spent 2 hours yesterday making sure everything looked perfect after my weekend restoration work. The neighbors are acting strange. Mrs. Rodriguez stops sweeping her porch and goes inside when she sees me. The man across the street watering his flowers turns his back and walks away. When I check my mailbox, I catch movement in 3 different windows. Curtains falling back into place. Eyes disappearing behind glass. They're watching me, all of them, like I'm some kind of threat. Back inside, I read the violation notice again. The language is formal, legal, like someone spent time crafting each word to sound official and intimidating. Property owner has engaged in prohibited automotive maintenance activities within community boundaries. Said activities constitute a violation of community standards as outlined in Section 12.4 of the Homeowner Agreement. Section 12.4. I flip to page 12 of my handbook. Section 12.4 talks about holiday decorations. Nothing about cars. Nothing about maintenance. Either my handbook is missing pages, or someone is making up rules as they go. I grab my laptop and search for Beverly Lang online. Her Facebook page shows photos from neighborhood events, block parties, holiday celebrations, community meetings. She looks like everyone's favorite aunt. But the comments under her posts tell a different story. Neighbors thanking her for keeping our community safe. Others mentioning compliance issues and property values. The words feel coded, like everyone knows something I don't. I scroll back through months of posts. Same pattern. Beverly at community events. Neighbors praising her dedication to standards and enforcement. When did enforcement become such a big deal in a quiet suburban neighborhood? I call the county clerk's office. Ask about HOA violation procedures. The clerk explains that HOA fines usually start small and escalate if ignored. But she mentions something that catches my attention. Most communities require violation notices to reference specific sections of filed CCRS. CCRS. Covenants, conditions, and restrictions. The legal document that governs our neighborhood. Can you tell me if Meadowbrook HOA filed updated CCRS recently? Let me check. Yes, they filed new restrictions 8 months ago. Would you like copies? 8 months ago. For months before I bought my house. For months before anyone told me about new rules. I drive to the county office and pick up the documents. 47 pages of new restrictions. Rules about automotive work. Fines starting at $150. Escalating penalties. Compliance committees. Everything in my violation notice is there. But none of it was in the handbook they gave me when I moved in. Someone made sure I got the old rules while everyone else got the new ones. I decide to pay the fine. Get it over with. Move on. Paying can buy time while you investigate and document, but I should preserve evidence and attempt an appeal. The last thing I want is neighborhood drama over a misunderstanding about car maintenance. I write the check for $150, put it in an envelope, drive to the HOA office and slip it under the door. Problem solved. Lesson learned. I'll do my car work in the garage from now on. But walking back to my car, I notice a woman sitting in a sedan across the street. Engine running. Windows tinted. She's writing something on a clipboard. When I look directly at her, she starts her car and drives away. The license plate reads, Beverly Lang, HOA President. She was watching me pay the fine, documenting my surrender, like this was all part of some bigger plan. That's when I realized the truth. This isn't random. This isn't about community standards. This is about something else entirely. And paying that fine just told them I'm the perfect target. What I didn't know was that Beverly Lang was just getting started. The surveillance started immediately. 3 days after paying that first fine, Beverly Lang shows up at my front door. It's 7 a.m. on a Saturday. I'm still in my bathrobe when the doorbell rings. She's standing there with a professional-looking clipboard, a metal measuring tape, and a digital camera hanging around her neck. Dressed like she's going to a business meeting. Navy blazer, pressed pants, hair perfect. Good morning, Ethan. I'm here to conduct your compliance inspection. Compliance inspection. Those words hit me wrong. Like she's a health inspector checking a restaurant kitchen. I wasn't told about any inspection. She smiles. Same sweet smile from when she brought me cookies. But her eyes are different now. Cold. Calculating. Everything is covered in your welcome packet. Standard procedure after a violation notice. Inspections are allowed only where your governing documents authorize them. Ask the inspector for the written policy and inspector authority before letting them in. But I don't know this yet, so I let her into my yard because I don't know what else to do. She immediately walks to my car and starts taking pictures. Close-ups of the tires. Wide shots of the entire vehicle. Detail photos of the license plate. Click, click, click. What are you documenting? Automotive equipment currently stored on the property. She writes something on her clipboard. Make, model, year, condition. She pulls out the measuring tape and starts measuring my grass. Not estimating. Actually measuring. Getting down on her knees with a ruler to check the exact height in different spots. 2 inches here. 2 1/4 there. She writes down each measurement like she's conducting a scientific study. The acceptable grass height is 2 inches maximum, she says. Yours measures 2.3 inches in the northeast corner of your front yard. 2.3 inches. She's citing me for grass that's a fraction of an inch too tall. She moves to my house next. Takes photos of my front door. The mailbox. Measures the distance between my driveway and the street. Is there a specific problem you're documenting? Community standards compliance. She says it like she's reading from a script. Property maintenance assessment. The conversation feels rehearsed, like she's done this exact routine before. Same questions, same measurements, same camera angles. Can I see the HOA rules about inspections? Her smile gets wider, more fake. Everything you need is in your welcome packet. But I've read that packet 10 times now. There's nothing about inspections. Nothing about measuring grass with rulers. Nothing about photographing residents' cars. She finishes her documentation and hands me a carbon copy of her inspection form. The handwriting is neat, professional, like she fills out these forms every day. Thank you for your cooperation. You'll receive any additional notices within 48 hours. Additional notices. Not if I get notices. When I get them. She walks to her car and drives away. I stand in my driveway holding this inspection form, feeling like I just got audited by someone who has no right to audit me. Politely refuse an unannounced inspection until you receive written notice. Record the conversation where legal, take photos of the visitor's badge or paperwork, and follow up in writing. That evening, I'm making dinner when I spot a familiar car at the end of my street. White sedan. Engine running. Someone sitting inside. I grab binoculars from my closet and look closer. Beverly Lang. Clipboard in her lap. Writing something while staring directly at my house. She sits there for 20 minutes. Just watching. Just writing. Then she drives away. The next morning, I'm taking out the trash when my neighbor Marcus walks over. He's lived here for 8 years. Knows everyone on the block. You got the inspection treatment too? He whispers. Too. That word stops me cold. Beverly's been doing inspections all month. He says, looking around like he's worried someone might hear. 5 houses so far. All guys with cars they work on. 5 houses. All car enthusiasts. She measured my grass last week. Marcus continues. Took pictures of my Camaro. Asked about my work schedule and when I usually do maintenance. Work schedule. Why would she need to know when we work on our cars? Have you gotten additional fines? Marcus nods. 3 more since the inspection. Paint color violation. Driveway staining. Unauthorized tool storage. Unauthorized tool storage. For keeping wrenches in his own garage. She's not picking random houses. I tell him. She's targeting specific people. Marcus looks around again. There's something else. She's been asking other neighbors about our cars. What they're worth. How long we've owned them. Whether we've ever talked about selling. Why would an HOA president care about the value of our vehicles? That night, I set up my phone to record from my bedroom window. If Beverly wants to play surveillance games, I can play too. Sure enough, she shows up around 9 p.m., parks in the same spot, sits there for 30 minutes with her clipboard. I film everything. Her license plate, her taking notes, her pointing some kind of device at my house. The device looks like a camera with a long lens. Professional equipment. Not something a neighborhood volunteer would own. Over the next week, I document every visit. Beverly shows up for more times. Always at night. Always with the clipboard and the camera. But on Thursday, I capture something that changes everything. Beverly's car pulls up as usual. But this time, a second car follows her. Black SUV with tinted windows. The SUV parks behind Beverly's car. A man gets out. Well-dressed. Expensive suit. Briefcase in his hand. He walks over to Beverly's car and gets in the passenger seat. They sit there for 10 minutes, looking at papers spread across the dashboard. The man points at my house, then at Marcus's house 2 doors down. They're studying something together. Planning something. When the meeting ends, the man hands Beverly what looks like a business card. She puts it in her purse and they both drive away. Business card. Professional equipment. Surveillance notes. Car values. She's not inspecting. She's building a file. But why? Someone is documenting our property for reasons that have nothing to do with neighborhood compliance. And the answer to who that man in the suit really is leads to places money shouldn't go. I grab my laptop and start following the money trail that leads straight to Beverly's personal bank account. The second violation notice arrives on a Tuesday morning. Same thin white envelope. Same perfect handwriting. But this time the fine makes my coffee cup slip from my hands. $300. For a mailbox violation. I read the notice 3 times before the words sink in. Non-approved exterior modifications detected during compliance inspection. The violation. My mailbox is apparently the wrong shade of black. Not jet black. Not midnight black. Wrong black. I grab a paint sample card from my garage. The mailbox color matches classic black from Home Depot. The same paint I watched the previous homeowner use 2 years ago. The same mailbox that passed inspection when I bought the house. But according to Beverly's notice, it should be approved community black, which doesn't exist on any paint chart I can find. The fine amount stops me cold though. First violation was $150. Second violation jumps to $300. That's double. Why double? I call the HOA office. Same automated message. Same 5-day callback promise. But this time I press 0 for emergencies. A woman answers on the 4th ring. HOA compliance office. I need to dispute a violation notice. The fine amount doesn't match your escalation schedule. All fines are set by the compliance committee. Can you explain why this fine is double the previous amount? Silence. Then, I don't have access to that information. She doesn't have access. The HOA office doesn't know why they're charging what they're charging. I'd like copies of other violation notices to compare fine amounts. That's $50 per document.
$50.
For photocopies of HOA records that should be public information for community members. Why do copies cost $50? Administrative fees, processing time, document preparation. Document preparation. They want $50 to hit print on their computer. I hang up and drive to Marcus's house. He's in his garage, staring at a stack of papers spread across his workbench. More fines? Ask. He nods without looking up. 3 more this week. The papers tell a story that makes my stomach turn. Between Marcus and 3 other neighbors, Beverly's compliance committee collected over $3,200 in 2 months. Almost $4,000 from 4 families for violations that didn't exist 6 months ago. Where does the money go? Marcus asks. Good question. I request a copy of the HOA budget from the county clerk's office. Public record. No $50 fee required. The budget shows a line item called Compliance Enforcement Revenue. Last year, $1,200. This year's projection, $15,000.
$15,000.
From violation fines, in a neighborhood of 47 houses. But here's what doesn't add up. The budget shows compliance revenue going into the general fund. Same fund that pays for street cleaning, landscaping, and community maintenance. Yet our streets haven't been cleaned in months. The community mailbox area looks like a disaster zone. The entrance sign is faded and cracked. Request the HOA's financials and reserve study. Public records often include budgets and line items. If the compliance revenue is growing while maintenance is ignored, that's a red flag. Where is the compliance money actually going? I drive to the county assessor's office and look up property records for Beverly Lang's address. Check public property records to see recent permit filings and financing for the HOA president's address. This is a valid, legal public record check to reveal suspicious cash improvements. Beverly bought her house 8 years ago for $180,000. Standard suburban home. Nothing fancy. But the property tax records tell a different story. I ran the records and found $45,000 in recent cash-paid work. New kitchen, $18,000. Bathroom remodel, $12,000. Pool installation, $15,000. All paid in cash.
No construction loans. No financing.
Cash payments for renovations that cost more than most people's annual salary. How does an HOA president who volunteers her time afford $45,000 in cash home improvements? I cross-reference the dates. Beverly's renovation permits were filed right after the new HOA enforcement rules took effect. The kitchen remodel started 2 weeks after the first compliance fines were collected. The pool installation began the month after fine amounts doubled. Beverly isn't just collecting fines for community improvement. She's collecting fines for Beverly improvement. But the money trail leads somewhere even more disturbing. The business card I saw her receive from the man in the suit has a logo that matches a stamp on several violation notices. Green and Associates Property Services. The same company name appears on 3 of Marcus's violation notices. Not as a sender, as a reference code in the bottom corner. Why would HOA violation notices reference an outside property services company? I search Green and Associates online. Their website shows estate services, property acquisition, and liquidation assistance. Services that have nothing to do with neighborhood compliance. Unless compliance isn't really the goal. The violation fines aren't about maintaining community standards. They're about generating cash flow for Beverly's personal projects while feeding information to a property services company that specializes in acquisition. They're documenting our homes, our cars, our financial stress levels, and our breaking points. But the most chilling part is realizing this is just the beginning of a much larger operation. Beverly's late-night surveillance visits aren't random neighborhood watch activities. She's collecting intelligence for someone else. And what I'm about to discover during her next surveillance visit will reveal exactly who that someone is. Thursday evening, Beverly pulls up to her usual surveillance spot. This time I'm ready with my phone camera zoomed in on her car. She's talking on her cell phone, animated, pointing at my house while she speaks. I can't hear the words, but I can read her lips forming 2 phrases that make my blood freeze. The Miller property, and something that looks like, move the timeline up. The Miller property. That's my house. My family name. But why would she need to move any timeline up? Beverly keeps talking, mentioning a name I catch clearly through the car window. Harold. She says it 3 times during the conversation. Harold this, Harold that. Like she's reporting to someone about progress on the Miller property. Then she says words that make 0 sense for HOA business. Liquidation services. Estate coordination. This is a documented exploitation pattern where selective enforcement pressures owners. Then outside solutions conveniently appear. Beverly ends her call and drives away. But this time, instead of going home, I follow her. She drives to a strip mall on the other side of town. Faded storefronts, half-empty parking lot. Beverly parks in front of a small office with a simple sign, Green and Associates Estate Services. The same green from the violation notices. Cross-check vendor names on violation notices against county business filings, and look for repeated vendor references across multiple notices. That's exactly what leads me here. But it's the name on the office door that stops me cold. Harold Green, Licensed Estate Coordinator. The same Harold that Beverly mentioned on her phone call. Harold Green. The name sounds familiar, but I can't place it. Then I remember. Election season last year. Campaign signs scattered across neighborhood lawns. City council candidate. Harold Green for District 4. The same Harold Green whose campaign signs decorated Beverly's front yard. The same Harold Green who won that election and now sits on the city council making decisions about zoning and property development. Through the office window, I watch Beverly walk inside carrying a manila folder. The same folder she had during her compliance inspection of my property. She sits across from a man in an expensive suit who matches the photos from Harold's campaign materials. Harold Green himself. City councilman and estate services business owner meeting with the HOA president who's been targeting my family. They spread papers across Harold's desk. Beverly opens her folder and pulls out photographs. Even from the parking lot, I recognize them. Pictures of my car. Pictures of my house. Pictures of my mailbox. The same photos she took during her so-called compliance inspection. Beverly hands Harold each photo like she's presenting evidence in a court case. Harold studies them, makes notes, points at specific details. They're not discussing HOA violations. They're conducting some kind of property assessment. Harold opens a file cabinet and pulls out more papers. He shows Beverly documents that make her nod and smile. Whatever those papers contain, Beverly likes what she sees. The meeting lasts 20 minutes. When it ends, Harold hands Beverly what looks like a business card. She puts it in her purse and they shake hands like they just completed a business transaction. Beverly leaves first. Harold locks up his office and drives away in a black BMW. The same black BMW I saw following Beverly during one of her surveillance visits to my street. I drive home with more questions than answers. Why would a city councilman who runs an estate services business need photographs of my property? Why would the HOA president be feeding him information about targeted homeowners? The next morning, I call Marcus with what I discovered. He listens quietly, then tells me something that makes my stomach drop. 3 neighbors got calls from Green and Associates last month. What kind of calls? Estate planning consultations. Free initial meetings. Someone called Tom Henderson right after his 3rd violation notice. Same with Lisa Chun and Rick Martinez. All the people getting hit hardest with HOA fines. Estate planning consultations. For people whose only connection is getting harassed by the HOA. Marcus continues. Tom went to the meeting. Said Harold Green offered to help him sell his classic Firebird to pay off the fines. Offered to handle the sale, take care of all the paperwork, connect him with collectors who pay top dollar for muscle cars. How much did he offer? Half what the car is worth. But Harold explained it as a quick sale to avoid legal trouble with the HOA. Quick sale. Legal trouble. The same pressure tactics Beverly uses with her escalating fines and compliance threats. The pattern clicks into place like puzzle pieces I should have seen months ago. Beverly identifies homeowners with valuable assets. Classic cars, expensive property, antique collections. She creates artificial pressure through fake violations and impossible fines. Meanwhile, Harold Green's estate services business approaches these stressed homeowners offering to solve their problems. Quick sales, cash transactions, no questions asked. Help them liquidate assets to pay off the mounting HOA fines. Beverly creates the problem. Harold provides the solution. Both profit from homeowners who just want the harassment to stop. This isn't random HOA enforcement. This isn't community standards. This is a coordinated scheme to pressure people into selling their most valuable possessions at below-market prices. But there's something else. Something about Harold Green that's been bothering me since I heard his name. A memory from childhood. A conversation I overheard but didn't understand at the time. My father mentioning someone named Harold Green. Not in a good way. Like Harold was a threat to our family somehow. He said Harold 3 times during that phone call. That's when I realized this wasn't random. Harold knew my family name. And what I'm about to discover in my father's old papers will explain why the Miller property has been on Harold Green's target list much longer than I ever imagined. That filing cabinet holds 30 years of secrets I was never meant to find. I'm tearing apart my father's old filing cabinet looking for the Mustang's title when my hand hits something taped to the back of the bottom drawer. A manila envelope, yellowed with age, with Harold Green Insurance, written across the front in my father's handwriting. Harold Green. The same Harold Green who's been working with Beverly to pressure me into selling my car. The same Harold Green whose estate services business profits from stressed homeowners. My father knew Harold Green 30 years ago. Inside the envelope is a cassette tape and a note that makes my hands shake. Emergency backup. Play only if something happens to me. The tape is labeled with a date from 1994. I was 12 years old then. The year we suddenly moved across town and Dad stopped his consulting work. I haven't seen a cassette player in years, but I find an old boom box in the garage. My finger trembles as I press play. My father's voice fills the room. Younger than I remember. Angrier than I ever heard him when he was alive. Harold, I've got copies of everything. The falsified safety reports. The payment records. The inspection stamps you sold to contractors who never did the work. Harold's voice responds, calm and cold. David, you're making a big mistake. These are serious accusations. Serious accusations? My father's voice rises. You're going to kill someone with these fake inspections. Aircraft parts that were never tested. Safety systems that were never installed. I won't be part of it. Aircraft parts. Safety systems. My father worked in aerospace consulting. He inspected military and civilian aircraft for safety compliance. Harold's response chills me to the bone. Your family has a nice life here, David. Nice house. Good school for your boy. It would be a shame if something happened to disrupt that. The threat. Harold Green threatened my family 30 years ago. My father continues recording. I'm documenting everything. If anything happens to me, if my family gets hurt, if our house burns down, if Ethan has an accident, people will know who's responsible. Ethan. Me. Harold threatened me when I was 12 years old. The recording explains everything that never made sense about my childhood. Why Dad suddenly stopped taking consulting contracts. Why we moved across town in the middle of my school year. Why my parents always seemed nervous about money even though Dad was successful. Harold Green forced my father out of his career by threatening our family. But there's more on the tape. My father's voice, determined now instead of angry. I'm putting copies of everything in a safety deposit box. If something happens to me, give this to Agent Rebecca Taylor. She's a customs enforcement officer coordinating with federal partners. She's the only one Harold can't buy or threaten. Agent Rebecca Taylor. Federal law enforcement. My father was working with federal agents to expose Harold's safety violations. The tape ends, but there's something else in the envelope. A small silver key taped to a piece of paper with my father's handwriting. First National Bank, Box 247. If you're reading this, finish what I started. Finish what I started. My father wanted me to complete his investigation into Harold Green. I drive to First National Bank with the key clutched in my sweaty palm. The safety deposit box room is cold and quiet. Box 247 sits in the lower section, waiting 3 decades for someone to open it. My father's signature is required to access the box, but the bank manager explains that inheritance laws transfer access to surviving family members. I show my ID and my father's death certificate. The key turns easily. Inside the metal box are manila folders, computer disks, and a stack of documents that take my breath away. Don't scatter the originals. Scan or photograph everything. Keep originals secure, and contact appropriate agency or an attorney for advice. But I don't know this yet, so I spread everything across the small table with shaking hands. Copies of aircraft inspection reports with Harold Green's forged signature. Payment records showing Harold received money for safety inspections he never performed. Letters between Harold and contractors discussing shortcuts that saved money but compromised safety. But it's one document that makes me understand the true scope of Harold's crimes. A handwritten list titled Aircraft Incidents Preventable Crashes, with dates, locations, and casualty numbers. 24 people died because Harold Green sold fake safety inspections to save aircraft owners money on proper maintenance. My father wasn't just documenting financial fraud. He was documenting mass murder. I'm furious and terrified at the same time. Furious that Harold destroyed my father's career and threatened our family. Terrified that the same man who caused 24 deaths is now targeting me through Beverly's HOA harassment. The final folder contains correspondence between my father and Agent Rebecca Taylor. Letters discussing Harold's political connections, his ability to avoid prosecution, his threats against witnesses who tried to expose him. Agent Taylor's last letter to my father is dated 2 weeks before we moved across town. We understand your position, David. Harold Green has protection at the state level. Until we can build a federal case, your family's safety must come first. My father stopped his investigation to protect me. He chose my safety over justice for 24 dead people. But Harold never stopped targeting the Miller family. The HOA harassment isn't random. Is Harold Green finishing what he started 30 years ago? He's been watching our family, waiting for the right moment to strike. The classic Mustang in my driveway isn't just a car Harold wants to acquire through his estate services scam. It's the same car my father was restoring when he discovered Harold's crimes. The car Harold watched him work on while planning his threats against our family. Harold Green has been hunting the Miller family for 3 decades. First, he destroyed my father's career. Now he's trying to steal my inheritance and drive me out of the neighborhood. But what Harold doesn't know is that Agent Rebecca Taylor might still be working in federal law enforcement. and the evidence to stop him has been waiting in a bank vault for 30 years. My father couldn't finish what he started. But I can. I pull out my phone and search for Agent Rebecca Taylor. If she's still alive, if she's still working cases, if she remembers my father's investigation, then maybe it's time to make a call that's 30 years overdue. When you call a federal agent about a 30-year-old case, you expect skepticism. Maybe some polite questions. Promise to look into it later. What you don't expect is immediate recognition of the suspect's name. Agent Rebecca Taylor from Customs Enforcement takes my call on the first ring. Her voice is sharp, professional, like she's been waiting for someone to call about exactly this case. I need to report evidence about Harold Green and aircraft safety violations from the 1990s. Silence. Then, can you repeat that name, please? Harold Green. He was falsifying aircraft inspection reports and Harold Green from the estate services business? Currently serving on city council in your district. She knows him. She knows exactly who I'm talking about. We've been tracking Harold Green for 2 decades, she says. But we could never prove the connection between his political protection and the safety violations. Political protection. The same protection that kept Harold safe when my father tried to expose him 30 years ago. I have documents, copies of falsified inspection reports, payment records, a list of aircraft that crashed because of his fake certifications. Agent Taylor's tone changes completely. Where did you get these documents? I explain about my father, about the safety deposit box, about the cassette tape where Harold threatened our family. Agent Taylor listens without interrupting, but I can hear her typing rapidly in the background. Your father was David Miller, aerospace consultant. We worked with him briefly in 1994 before he went silent. Went silent. That's what federal agents call it when someone stops cooperating because they're afraid for their family's safety. We understood why your father backed down. Agent Taylor continues. Harold had connections at the state level. People who could make problems disappear. People who could make witnesses disappear. The weight of what she's saying hits me. My father didn't just face career threats. He faced physical danger for trying to expose Harold's crimes. But Harold's operation has evolved. Agent Taylor explains. His estate liquidation business isn't just about aircraft anymore. We suspect it's a front for moving stolen property across state lines. Cross-state property trafficking and falsified federal aircraft documents give us federal jurisdiction. Stolen property. The classic cars Marcus and I discovered. The antique furniture. The valuable collectibles Harold's business specializes in acquiring and selling. The items don't come from willing sellers, Agent Taylor says. They come from pressured homeowners, elder abuse victims, people facing manufactured financial crises who need quick cash. Manufactured financial crises, like HOA fines that escalate from 150 to 400 for imaginary violations. Like compliance inspections that document valuable property under the pretense of neighborhood enforcement. Harold creates the pressure. Then his business provides the solution. Cash sales. No questions asked. Items shipped out of state before anyone can trace them. The scheme is bigger than just my neighborhood. Bigger than just Beverly Lang's HOA harassment. Harold is running a multi-state operation that uses local enforcers to identify and pressure targets. Beverly Lang isn't just Harold's local contact, Agent Taylor reveals. She's part of a network operating in 15 different communities. We've identified HOA presidents, property managers, and city officials all feeding information to Harold's organization. 15 communities. 15 different neighborhoods where people like me are getting harassed by people like Beverly. 15 different areas where Harold's network is documenting valuable property and creating artificial pressure to force quick sales. The HOA harassment is just the entry point, Agent Taylor explains. The real money comes from forcing people to liquidate family heirlooms, classic cars, antique collections. Items worth hundreds of thousands of dollars sold for pennies on the dollar to avoid legal trouble. Legal trouble that doesn't actually exist. Fines that aren't legally enforceable. Violations that aren't real. But homeowners don't know that. They just know the pressure keeps building until selling their most valuable possessions seems like the only way out. Your father's evidence could have stopped this 30 years ago, Agent Taylor says. But Harold's political connections were too strong. The threats worked. Until now, Harold made a mistake by targeting the Miller family again. He didn't know my father kept evidence. He didn't know the federal investigation never actually closed. We've been building a case for years, Agent Taylor continues. But we needed proof of the connection between the political protection, the property theft, and the original safety violations. Your father's documents provide that connection. The documents in the safety deposit box don't just prove Harold falsified aircraft inspections. They prove he's been using the same intimidation tactics for decades, the same network of local officials, the same pattern of threats and pressure. But we need more than documents, Agent Taylor warns. We need current evidence, recent recordings, proof that Harold and his network are actively committing crimes right now. Current evidence. That means letting Harold and Beverly think they're winning while the federal agents build their case. That means continuing to be their target while recording everything they do. If you believe criminal activity is occurring in your HOA, contact law enforcement or a qualified attorney and follow their instructions. Don't attempt to confront suspected criminals on your own. We want you to wear a wire, Agent Taylor says. Let Harold approach you about selling your car. Let Beverly continue her harassment. Document everything while we coordinate raids on the entire network.
Wear a wire.
The thought terrifies me. If Harold threatened my family 30 years ago, what would he do if he discovered I'm working with federal agents now? Your father couldn't finish what he started because the stakes were too high, Agent Taylor says. But we have resources now that we didn't have then. Protection, coordination with multiple agencies, the ability to take down the entire network at once. The federal investigation has been waiting for exactly the kind of evidence sitting in my father's safety deposit box. Evidence that connects Harold's current crimes to his past violations. Evidence that shows a pattern spanning 3 decades. But to catch Harold and Beverly, I'll have to do something that scares me more than any HOA fine or neighborhood surveillance. I'll have to let them think they're finally about to destroy the Miller family while federal agents record every word they say. Agent Taylor meets me at a coffee shop downtown 2 days later. She slides a small black device across the table. Smaller than a quarter. Thinner than a credit card. Recording equipment, she explains. Battery lasts 12 hours. Records everything within 15 feet. The wire and plan are coordinated with federal agents. You won't be acting alone. The device feels warm in my palm, like it's alive, like it's already listening to every word we speak. Wearing a wire and cooperating with federal agents is a serious, legally supervised operation that requires following exact protocols. You need to act desperate, Agent Taylor says. Like the HOA pressure is finally breaking you down. Like you're ready to do anything to make the harassment stop. Desperate. That part won't require much acting. The violation fines have reached 2,800. Beverly's surveillance visits happen twice a week now. But the thought of pretending to sell my father's car makes my stomach turn. This isn't just about catching criminals anymore. It's about betraying everything that car represents. Call Beverly tonight. Tell her you're ready to sell the Mustang to pay the mounting fines. I drive home with the recording device taped under my shirt. The adhesive itches against my skin. A constant reminder that every conversation from now on becomes federal evidence. That evening, I call Beverly. My hands shake as I dial her number. Beverly, it's Ethan Miller. I need to talk to you about the violation fines. Her voice changes immediately. Softer, more helpful. Like she's been waiting for this exact phone call. Of course, Ethan. I know this has been stressful for you. Stressful. Like she hasn't been the one creating every bit of that stress. I'm ready to sell my car, I tell her. The fines are too much. I need to get this resolved before it gets worse. Silence. Then, that's very wise of you, Ethan. I know someone who might be able to help. Someone who specializes in quick sales for people in your situation. People in your situation. Code words for people she's pressured into financial desperation. Can you have him call me tonight? He'll be there within 2 hours. Within 2 hours. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Tonight. Like they have a system ready to move the moment someone breaks down. 1 hour and 43 minutes later, a black BMW pulls into my driveway. Harold Green steps out carrying a leather briefcase. Same expensive suit. Same confident walk. Same man who threatened my father 30 years ago. He knocks on my door at exactly 8 p.m. Ethan Miller? I'm Harold Green from Green and Associates. Beverly Lang asked me to speak with you about your automotive situation. Harold walks into my living room and sets his briefcase on my coffee table. Opens it to reveal stacks of cash. Hundreds and fifties bundled with rubber bands. I understand you're facing some financial pressure from HOA compliance issues. I'm prepared to offer you $8,000 cash for your vehicle. Today. Right now. $8,000. For a car worth more than 4 times that amount. The market value is closer to $35,000. I tell him. Harold smiles. The same cold smile I heard in my father's recording. Market value assumes you have time to find the right buyer. Quick sales help everyone avoid legal complications, especially when there are ongoing community standards violations that could escalate to legal action. The recording device under my shirt captures every word of his veiled threat. I've handled dozens of classic cars this way, Harold continues, always from motivated sellers facing similar pressures. People who need cash quickly to resolve their situations. Motivated sellers. People he's targeted and pressured through his network of HOA enforcers like Beverly. Where do the cars go after you buy them? Private collectors. Mostly overseas buyers who appreciate American classics. Once the sale is complete, the vehicles are shipped out of state immediately. Shipped out of state, where they can't be traced. Where the original owners can never get them back even if they discover the sale was based on fraud. Car door slams outside. Beverly Lang appears at my front door carrying another stack of papers. She walks in without knocking. Ethan, I have your updated violation notices. She spreads the papers across my kitchen table. 5 new violations. $2,000 in additional fines. All dated today. These fines will disappear completely if you resolve your automotive compliance issue tonight, Beverly explains. The timing is perfect. Too perfect. They created $2,000 in new pressure the same day Harold showed up with cash to solve my problems. Harold pulls out a bill of sale already filled out with my name, my address, and the $8,000 sale price. Only my signature line remains blank. Sign here and your HOA problems disappear tonight. I pretend to consider the offer while the recording device captures Harold's admission that he's bought dozens of classic cars from pressured homeowners. Beverly's confirmation that fines disappear when people sell to Harold. I pick up Harold's pen and sign the papers. Not with my real signature. With a fake name that will void the sale later but looks legitimate enough to keep the conversation going. Harold hands me the cash. Beverly tears up the violation notices. Both smile like they just helped me solve my problems instead of stealing my inheritance. Your father would be proud, Harold says while packing up his briefcase. He always knew when to make smart financial decisions. My father. Harold just revealed that he knows exactly who I am. That targeting the Miller family was always personal. That this isn't random HOA enforcement or coincidental estate services. This is Harold Green finishing what he started 30 years ago when he threatened my family to stop my father's investigation. But what Harold doesn't know is that every word he just spoke was recorded by federal agents who have been waiting 3 decades to hear him confess. And tomorrow night, when Beverly calls an emergency HOA meeting to celebrate their victory, the entire neighborhood is about to discover the truth about their trusted community leaders. The community center has never seen a crowd like this. Every chair filled. People standing against walls. Neighbors who haven't spoken in months sitting side by side with their own stacks of violation notices. The emergency HOA meeting was supposed to address community concerns about compliance procedures. What Beverly doesn't know is that Marcus posted about it on every neighborhood social media group. What she really doesn't know is who's sitting in the back row. Agent Rebecca Taylor chose the metal folding chairs in the corner. 2 federal marshals flanked her on either side. They look like any other concerned residents. Jeans and polo shirts. Nothing that screams federal law enforcement. But I can see the earpieces. The way they scan the room like they're memorizing every face. Beverly stands at the front podium trying to control a room that's already spinning out of her grip. Her usual perfect hair looks frayed. Her hands shake when she shuffles her papers. She knows something's wrong, but she can't figure out what. Tonight's meeting will address recent questions about our compliance enforcement procedures. Beverly begins. Her voice cracks on the word compliance. Tom Henderson raises his hand. I want to know why my car maintenance fines cost more than my mortgage payment. Murmurs ripple through the room. Lisa Chun holds up her stack of violation notices. I got fined $400 for planting flowers in my own yard. More hands go up. More voices. The room fills with stories of impossible fines and fake violations. Beverly's face gets paler with each complaint. All violations are reviewed according to established procedures, Beverly says. But her voice sounds hollow now. Desperate. That's when I stand up. I have new evidence about HOA financial irregularities. Beverly's face goes white. Actually white, like someone drained all the blood from her cheeks. I pull out my phone and connect it to the community center speaker system. The same system Beverly uses for her monthly HOA presentations. The same speakers that usually broadcast her talks about community standards and property values. This recording is 30 years old, I announce to the packed room. It documents threats made against the Miller family by someone currently involved in HOA enforcement. I press play. My father's voice fills the community center. Harold, I've got copies of everything. The falsified safety reports, the payment records, the inspection stamps you sold to contractors who never did the work. Then Harold's response. Cold and threatening. Your family has a nice life here, David. It would be a shame if something happened to disrupt that. The room goes dead silent. 47 neighbors hearing Harold Green threaten my family 3 decades ago. The same Harold Green whose estate services business has been pressuring them to sell their valuables. Did you ever get a strange HOA notice? Tell me below. Beverly tries to leave. She grabs her papers and heads for the exit like the building is on fire. Marcus steps in front of the door. The meeting isn't over yet. I continue playing evidence while Beverly stands trapped between Marcus and a room full of neighbors who finally understand what's been happening to them. Bank records showing where violation fines really went. Screenshots of Beverly's recent home renovations. Property tax records documenting $45,000 in cash improvements. The violation fines aren't going to community improvements, I explain to the room. They're going to Beverly's personal bank account. Your money paid for her new kitchen. Your harassment fines funded her pool installation. The room erupts. Voices shouting over each other. People waving their violation notices like evidence in a courtroom. Tom Henderson stands up with his calculator showing $1,800 in fines over 6 months. You stole from us? Lisa Chun yells at Beverly. You made up fake rules to rob your own neighbors. Beverly looks around the room at 47 angry faces. People she's lived next to for years. People whose trust she violated for money. People who now understand they've been systematically robbed by someone they elected to protect their community. Agent Rebecca Taylor stands up from her corner seat. The federal marshals follow her lead. Beverly Lang, you're under federal investigation for wire fraud and racketeering, Agent Taylor announces. Her voice cuts through the chaos like a blade. You have the right to remain silent. But Beverly doesn't remain silent. The pressure breaks her completely. Federal agents and marshals coordinated this meeting to preserve evidence and allow lawful arrests, making her public confession legally admissible. It wasn't my idea, she screams at the room. Harold Green runs everything. He has HOA contacts in 15 different communities. We target families with valuable property. The confession pours out like water through a broken dam. Names of other HOA officials in the network. Details about targeting elderly residents and pressuring them to sell family heirlooms. Harold keeps lists. Beverly continues. Families with aerospace backgrounds. military veterans with collectibles, anyone with property worth stealing. She explains the system. HOA officials identify targets and create artificial pressure through fake violations. Harold's estate services business approaches desperate homeowners offering quick cash sales. The stolen property gets shipped out of state to buyers who don't ask questions. Marcus is filming everything on his phone, live streaming Beverly's complete breakdown to Facebook. The video counter shows hundreds of viewers becoming thousands as neighbors share the stream with friends and family. But then Beverly reveals something that hits me like physical pain. Harold never forgot about your father's threat to expose him. She tells me directly. He's been watching the Miller family for 30 years, waiting for the right moment to finish what he started. The HOA harassment was personal. He wanted your father's car. He wanted to destroy your family the same way your father tried to destroy his business. The live stream viewer count hits 10,000. Then 20,000. Comments pour in from other communities recognizing similar patterns in their own neighborhoods. Beverly's confession goes viral within hours, triggering federal investigations in 14 other communities where Harold's network operated. The recovered property value eventually reaches around $47 million across all the connected cases. Agent Taylor signals to the marshals. They move toward Beverly with handcuffs ready. But she's not done talking yet. The storage facility has everything. Beverly sobs. Classic cars, antique furniture, jewelry. Hundreds of families. Harold ships it all overseas. The federal agents exchange glances. They already know about the storage facility. They've been planning simultaneous raids for weeks. Beverly's arrest happens right there in front of 47 neighbors who trusted her to protect their community. The same woman who brought me cookies when I moved in. The same woman who smiled and waved every morning while planning to rob me blind. As the marshals lead Beverly away, Agent Taylor approaches me with a look that says this is just the beginning. "We move at dawn," she whispers. "Harold Green's 30-year crime spree ends tomorrow morning." Federal raids require warrants and interagency coordination, which explains how agents hit multiple locations simultaneously at exactly 5:47 a.m. My phone buzzes with Agent Taylor's voice cutting through my sleepy confusion. "It's happening now. Multiple locations. Stay inside and keep your camera ready." I stumble to my bedroom window just as 3 black SUVs pull up to Beverly's house across the street. Federal agents in tactical gear pour out like they're raiding a drug cartel instead of an HOA president's suburban home. Beverly's porch light flicks on. She appears at her door in a bathrobe, coffee mug in her hand. The same woman who measured my grass with rulers. The same woman who photographed my car like she was building a criminal case. But now she's the one facing handcuffs. Agent Taylor approaches Beverly's door with an arrest warrant. Even from my bedroom window, I can see Beverly's face go white when she realizes what's happening. The coffee mug slips from her hands and shatters on her driveway. The same driveway where she used to park to spy on my house. The irony hits me like a punch. Beverly tries to slam her door shut. 2 agents catch it before it closes. They escort her outside while she's still wearing fuzzy pink slippers. Her perfect hair looks wild. Her makeup-free face shows every one of her 53 years. News crews arrive within minutes. Channel 7. Channel 4. The local newspaper photographer. Someone tipped them off about the raids. Cameras capture Beverly being led to a federal transport van while agents carry boxes of evidence from her house. Box after box after box. Financial records, computer equipment, filing cabinets full of HOA documents. They load everything into evidence trucks like they're moving her entire life. But Beverly's arrest is just the opening act. My phone buzzes with a text from Marcus. "Turn on Channel 7. Harold's getting arrested at his office." I flip on the TV just as news cameras show Harold Green being walked out of his estate services building in handcuffs. The same expensive suit. The same confident walk. But now federal agents surround him like bodyguards in reverse. Harold keeps his head high for the cameras. Doesn't try to hide his face or duck into the transport vehicle. He stares directly at the news cameras like he's planning his political comeback before his trial even starts. The news reporter explains that Harold's arrest is part of a coordinated federal investigation into property theft and elder fraud spanning 15 states. 15 states. The network was bigger than any of us imagined. But the real shock comes when the news cameras follow federal agents to a storage facility across town. The same facility Beverly mentioned during her neighborhood confession. The place where Harold kept stolen property before shipping it overseas. Agent Taylor calls me from the storage facility. "You need to see this. Can you get down here in 20 minutes? I drive across town to find a massive warehouse surrounded by federal vehicles. The scope becomes clear immediately. 3 football fields worth of stolen property organized into categories that tell the story of Harold's operation. Classic cars from the 1960s and 70s represent families pressured into selling their most valuable possessions. Antique furniture collections span entire sections where dining room sets and bedroom suites wait to be returned to families who thought they were lost forever. Military medals fill display cases with Purple Hearts, Bronze Stars, and service ribbons from World War II and Vietnam that veterans sold during manufactured financial crises. Agent Taylor leads me through rows of tagged evidence. Each item has a case number and a victim's name. Thompson family dining room set. Rodriguez collection of military memorabilia. Chun family jewelry passed down from great-grandparents. We estimate about $47 million in recovered property. Agent Taylor explains. Recovered property gets cataloged through formal federal processes, and victims are notified through official channels once we verify ownership. Some families thought their items were lost forever. Others never realized they were scammed until we contacted them. She stops at a display case filled with military medals. Lisa Chen's neighbor thought she lost her grandfather's Purple Heart during a move 3 years ago, Agent Taylor says. Turns out Beverly targeted her after she mentioned the medal's value during a neighborhood barbecue. Lisa Chen, the same neighbor who got fined $400 for planting flowers in her own yard. The same woman who received mysterious calls from Harold's Estate Services business offering to help with financial planning. The pattern becomes clear as Agent Taylor shows me evidence from other communities. Harold identified valuable property through local contacts like Beverly. The contacts created artificial pressure through fake violations and impossible fines. Then Harold's business swooped in with offers to buy valuable items at below-market prices. Harold's political connections protected him for decades. Agent Taylor explains. City council position. Campaign contributions to judges. Friends in state government who buried investigations. But federal evidence builds different cases than local complaints. My father's documents provided the missing link. Proof that Harold's intimidation tactics and political protection stretched back 30 years. Evidence that connected his current property theft operation to his past safety violations that killed 24 people. The raids trigger copycat investigations in other cities where Harold's network operated. Phoenix, Denver, Charlotte, Kansas City. Each location reveals more stolen property and more pressured families. Local news interviews reveal that Harold's estate liquidation business was just window dressing. The real money came from international buyers who purchased American antiques and classic cars without asking about their origins. Swiss collectors, German investors, Japanese museums buying stolen American history. My father's Mustang sits in my driveway exactly where I left it. Never sold. Never stolen. But now it's evidence in a federal case that recovered about $47 million in stolen memories. The personal victory feels hollow at first. Harold and Beverly destroyed so many families before we stopped them. But then Agent Taylor shows me the victim notification list. Hundreds of families getting their stolen property back. Thousands of people learning that their financial emergencies were manufactured by criminals. My father couldn't finish what he started 30 years ago, but his evidence helped finish it now. With Beverly and Harold in federal custody, our neighborhood faces a different kind of challenge. We need to figure out how to rebuild trust when the people we elected to protect us spent years robbing us blind. The first community meeting without Beverly feels like stepping into a house after the burglar leaves. Everything looks normal, but you know someone violated your trust in ways that change everything. Marcus stands at the front podium holding Beverly's old gavel. The same gavel she used to silence questions about where our fine money went. His hands shake slightly as he addresses 47 neighbors who still don't know who to trust. We need new leadership, Marcus announces. But we also need to make sure this never happens again. Tom Henderson raises his hand immediately. I say we dissolve the HOA completely. No more rules. No more fines. No more chances for someone else to rob us blind. Half the room nods. The other half looks worried. Lisa Chen speaks up from the third row. Without any oversight, property values could drop. We still need basic maintenance. Street cleaning. Common area upkeep. The debate reveals how deep the damage goes. How do you rebuild community governance after your elected leader spent years systematically stealing from her own neighbors? Marcus pulls out research he's been doing since the arrests. Other communities went through similar situations. Here's what actually worked. He explains the new system we're implementing. All HOA finances get published online every month with detailed line items. No more secret accounts or hidden fees. Every violation must be reviewed by a rotating 3-member committee of neighbors. No single person controls enforcement decisions. Major policy changes require majority votes from the entire community. Dissolving or radically changing HOA structure requires legal review and compliance with governing documents and state law. So we work within existing frameworks while adding transparency safeguards. The recovered fine money gets returned to every family who paid Beverly's illegal charges. Real checks. Real refunds. Tom Henderson gets back his $1,800. Lisa Chen recovers her $650. Every stolen dollar accounted for and repaid through the federal restitution process. But Harold's seized assets provide something more valuable than refunds. His expensive office building, his BMW, and his collection of untraceable stolen property get auctioned by federal courts. The proceeds come to our community as victim compensation. Suddenly we have funding for improvements Harold always claimed we couldn't afford. New street lights, repaved roads, a community garden where neighbors grow vegetables together instead of spying on each other. My sister Emily drives down from Chicago for our first Reformed community meeting. She practices elder law, helping seniors protect themselves from exactly the kind of scams Harold ran through Beverly. This wasn't random, Emily explains to the packed room. Property theft schemes targeting older adults operate nationwide. Harold's network succeeded in 15 states because the tactics work when communities don't recognize the warning signs. Emily helps us establish the David Miller Technical Training Foundation, a nonprofit that teaches other communities how to identify and stop property theft schemes before they destroy families. My father's name on a foundation protecting people from the same threats he faced 30 years ago. The community center gets converted into a technical training space 3 days a week. Local teenagers learn automotive repair and basic aerospace maintenance. The same skills my father used in his consulting work. The same skills that led him to discover Harold's safety violations decades ago. The training center operates in the same building where Beverly held her fake compliance meetings. Young people learning real skills instead of getting threatened with imaginary violations. We install security cameras around the community center and neighborhood entrance. Not to spy on each other like Beverly did, but to protect against future infiltrators who might target our leadership. The cameras record HOA meetings so everyone can verify what gets said versus what gets reported later. The new transparency rules work because everyone participates. Monthly financial reports get reviewed by rotating committees. Violation appeals get heard by neighbors who actually live here instead of outside companies with profit motives. Every major decision requires community votes instead of board secrets. People talk to each other now. Real conversations instead of surveillance notes. Tom Henderson teaches automotive repair classes. Lisa Chun leads the community garden project. Rick Martinez coordinates the neighborhood watch program that actually watches for real threats. We learn to question authority without becoming paranoid. We protect each other from abuse without becoming isolated. The neighborhood becomes stronger because we understand the difference between legitimate community standards and criminal harassment. Trust rebuilds slowly through small actions and consistent transparency. Every monthly meeting proves we can govern ourselves without giving power to people who abuse it. The most meaningful change happens in my garage on weekends. I finally finish restoring Dad's 1967 Mustang. The same car Harold tried to steal. The same car that represents everything he tried to take from our family. I replaced the carburetor Dad was working on when Harold first threatened us. Install the brake system he ordered but never got to use. The engine turns over on the first try, purring like it's been waiting 30 years to run properly. Every Sunday, I drive the Mustang through our neighborhood, past Beverly's old house, now occupied by a young family whose kids ride bikes without worrying about violation notices, past the community center where teenagers learn skills instead of getting targeted by predators. The restoration is complete. The neighborhood is healing. But the lessons we learned about fighting for the life you want extend far beyond our small community. 3 months later, I know exactly what to do if this ever happens to you. If your HOA ever makes you feel powerless, remember this. Document everything, find allies, follow the money, and never be afraid to call in help from outside your community when local power protects local corruption. But here's your step-by-step action plan. Save notices and photograph them. Check your CCRS at county records. Document interactions and save emails and texts. If criminal conduct is suspected, contact law enforcement and an attorney. These simple steps can prevent abuse before it destroys families like Harold tried to destroy mine. What would you have done if you found that cassette tape? Drop a comment. Did this ever happen to you or someone you know? Because somewhere out there, another Harold Green is counting on good people staying quiet. Draft.